Hey guys, how is everyone in the Savo? Good? Woo! I think I've got maybe the tricky slot, have I got the after lunch slot here? Oh damn, okay. Well, we'll try and get the energy levels up. I've got cards here, which is probably silly, so I'm going to put them down, but I'll refer to them a little bit. So my name's George Pank. I am a product growth manager at Canstar. I was at the booth earlier, and the obvious question is, who is Canstar? So we are Australia's biggest financial comparison website, and in fact we do a whole bunch of stuff. So if you're someone who wants to go and compare a lot of different products, it can be all the way from like hot cross buns even. Like if you're in the market for hot cross buns, coming up to Easter, you can go on and search the best hot cross buns, or it could be a mobile phone plan, it could be home loans, insurance, a whole bunch of stuff. So we work both with the Australian population, so we get 10 million visits a year, but also with companies who want to effectively get kind of leads or clicks through to our website. That's how we get paid, ultimately. So that's kind of what we do. And what is a product growth manager, which is my role? So effectively what I do is I look both inside our company and think, where are areas of opportunity, but also outside and think, what are other people doing in the market, our competitors, what's a great opportunity, and look at how we can grow both our customers and our profitability as a business. Now, because I've got the after lunch slot, I'm going to try and keep it pretty simple. I just want you guys to remember 3 things about product management, which is what I'm going to talk about today. One is that product managers come in all different shapes and sizes. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that, your career journey, I'll talk a little bit about mine, but your career journey is your journey. So it's such a cool step you guys have taken today to kind of hear more about what's out there. But, it's kind of about taking a step often on that journey. And then the third thing is that for me, I don't know if this is true for others, is that in product, every day is a school day. So that's kind of the 1, 2, 3. If you guys can take away nothing else, that'd be pretty cool. So let's get into it. I'm horrible with PowerPoint. Let's see how I go. Cool. So product managers come in all shapes and sizes. So firstly, how many of you guys have heard of I might get some or none here, of the T-shaped skill set? Do people know what that is, a T-shaped skill? Yes, I've got one. Woohoo! Good on you, man. So basically, that is super relevant in product, a T-shaped skill set. Effectively, you need to be an expert in some areas, which is kind of like the vertical of the T, but then you also need to have a really broad skill set in product, all the way from thinking about strategy to understanding the customer base. You need to be a little bit technical, but, it's about being a little bit dangerous in all those areas, not an expert. So that's kind of an interesting thing to take into it. But if we deep dive then into kind of more like the product manager and some of those skills, I'll touch on kind of what a few of those are. So number 1, you are the product expert more often than not. I've kind of got an array of products here. It doesn't kind of represent what we do at Canstar necessarily, although some of these are. You might be a product manager who looks after credit cards and knows all the ins and outs of credit cards. You might be working at Google and Google Maps is your thing and you're just a deep expert in that. Or you might have, come up with the latest fragrance at Chanel. So that's number 1, is you're a product expert. Number 2 is it's all about being customer-centric. So this is really recognising that, customers, without customers, you have no product, and that you need to be able to put yourself in the customer's shoes. And that's a really critical part about being in product. So if you feel like you're, quite customer-centric, it might be one for you. The third is being data-led, which I've often struggled with. I'm terrible with numbers. I worked at a bank for quite a while, but it's less about being in love with numbers. It's more about being driven by what numbers tell you and helping you make decisions with data with your product. The next one is it's about setting a vision and being able to solve problems. So whether that is, I want to take this product from here to here, in the medium term and from here to here in the long term, or if it's wow, we've got this problem today with this piece of software we're trying to ship out. How can we solve that problem quickly with engineers? It's kind of a little bit of both those things. So as if that's not enough, you are also often in product a really good collaborator. And that just means, inside your organisation, getting people together, getting people on the same page to get stuff done. So with all of those things wrapped together, often the product manager gets called like the mini CEO in an organisation, I think because you are doing so many of those things. But also it can be a bit of a unicorn role there. I don't know why I chose a floating pool device for a unicorn. So that's kind of the product manager. And that kind of brings you to the end of kind of like the first part, which is product managers come in all shapes and sizes. I think that's the thing to take away is that you might bring some or all of these skills into product, and that's okay. That's actually really great because, it's a really diverse area. So that's kind of number one is product managers come in all shapes and sizes. So your journey is your journey. This was the second point we talked about. And I mean, just to share an anecdote I heard recently, does everyone know Hamish Blake, the kind of podcast? Yes. Okay, cool. Woo, I'm a fan too. So Hamish Blake, who's a kind of podcaster, comedian, radio guy, someone recently asked him, they're like, you have got the best kind of career path, career journey. How did you curate that? How did it happen for you? And Hamish really just turned and said, like, look, 25 years on, it's quite easy to sort of look at my career and say it's polished and it's curated and I meant to do all of these things. When the reality was, it was kind of one, often kind of quite clumsy choice after the next at the time. And I think for me that resonated because, where you end up is not necessarily where you intended to go. And that can actually be okay too. It's great to have a plan, but sometimes, it's about getting out there, talking to people and making the right choices for you. So, your journey is very much your journey. So I was just going to talk a little bit about my kind of squiggly journey on that front and how that kind of landed me in some of the product roles I've been in and ultimately at Canstar, a great company. So firstly, for me, it all started off with a job, which was I started off as a waiter in a few different jobs. I think during school and uni, that kind of was cool because, it had good tips. And it was pretty much as simple as that. But what I realised is that I loved the services industry and customer service and kind of when people got a good experience, they smiled and that made me happy too. So for me, that's always been like a cool kind of steel thread in like choices that I've made is like, are there customers at the end of this? How do they feel? So that's kind of the first thing for me. I went to uni at Uni New South Wales. I did a degree which was commerce, which had marketing and tourism hospitality as majors. Loved uni. Took me a little while. I probably had too much fun in the first year, but then I was like, this is fantastic. At that point, I kind of got this squiggle here. I did work experience at an advertising agency called M&C Saatchi. And I thought I'd take a job in advertising, but then last minute a role in marketing for a hotel group came up. These are the guys that have like Vibe, Adina and Travelodge hotels. And I ended up going down that path and I was like, yeah, cool. Okay, great. I'm going to be working in hotels now. That's going to be my thing. I'll be running a hotel in wherever it might be in one day. But yeah, actually it was like 18 months after that, a friend of mine talked to me and was like, these guys at CommBank are starting like a public relations part of the business, which was kind of what I was doing, some of that sort of stuff at the hotel place. And I was like, oh man, I don't know, like a bank. I don't know if that's me. But I ended up speaking with them and lo and behold, I took a job there and amazing. So I worked there for 5 years at CommBank initially in different marketing roles, like in the brand team, and started thinking about products, like working a little bit in credit cards. And then I moved over to Barclays, which is in London. And the real driver for that was like, hey, I'm in my mid-20s. I'd love to go and travel. And what better way to travel than sort of be out there getting paid while you're doing it and be learning. And at that time, I moved more from like marketing type roles into more how the ins and outs of the actual product work. So again, that was mostly in credit cards, but how does the balance the profit and loss of the credit cards work? How do we make money? Understanding like the features of the product. So it was more kind of in that vein. Really great experience, obviously overseas, thinking about how do other markets operate? Is it the same as here? Different regulations, all that sort of good stuff. And then I came back to Australia and I went back to CommBank actually, and I was there for another 8 years until about 10 months ago. And in total at CommBank, I had 8 roles, and I kind of affectionately call it the University of CBA for me. It was just such a great way to, that organisation's 50,000 people, like go in different areas, learn stuff, understand how the business works. It was such a great opportunity. And then I moved to Canstar 10 months ago. Why did I do that? It was, Canstar's just under 200 people, but a really well-recognised brand. I don't know if all of you guys know it, but hopefully after today. Well-regarded in Australia. It compares a whole bunch of different industries, which for me, again, was a great learning curve in product because you can go and understand more stuff, but also kind of you end up seeing that you can make an impact in a smaller organisation. So it's, getting experience in both big and small, I think is a really good thing. So, yeah, what's the so what of all this? Cool, like this is this guy's, career path. For you guys, you might take something or nothing out of this. I suppose what, I thought about is that it's your career path. This is mine. You'll have your own. But I think the important thing is you sort of enjoy the ride with it all. It might, at the end of the day, you might go, yeah, cool, that sort of pieces together nicely. Or you might go, that was one clumsy decision after the next. So that's number 2 is your journey's your journey. And number 3, every day is a school day. The way I feel at work is that pretty much in every meeting I feel like I'm not the smartest person in the room. I'm probably the one that asks the dumb questions, And I love that. For me, it's like a license to learn. And, I think that's such a great thing. So, in order to illustrate kind of what every day is a school day means for me, I was just going to try and do 2 things. One is just flash up a random day, literally a random day for me, and sort of talk through a couple of examples of that. And then also maybe just demo something that we're working on now, if the video is my friend. So cool. So number 1 is like the day in the life. So yeah, this is a random Monday. The only thing I checked is, I didn't have like pick up my kids from school or something weird. Not weird. That's not weird. But yeah, so for me, I think, what I took from this is probably 2 things. One is that a random day is pretty diverse for me in product. It means, I'm not sitting there alone with no meetings thinking, how can I come up with the next great product idea? It is about being out there both inside my business and talking with people who we might have partnerships with about, what are we doing with this? What are we doing with that? So, I might have catch-ups with the tech team in tribes that I'm in around kind of what product features are we currently developing and where are they at. It might be with partners in health insurance around, what is the current status of this product we're developing, or, how is it performing if it's out in the market. It might be with, it might be on forecasting there around like, fine, we're performing like this now. What does the next quarter or next week or whatever look like? You've also got kind of quite technical discussions around, I might be working on personal loans and there's a lot of regulation there. So, working with the legal and compliance team on are we adhering to the current regulation around personal loans in what we're developing? or with the design team, which, you know, is obviously kind of like looking at a different side of your brain around like, how do we feel like this UI hangs together for the customer experience? So, yeah, so the first thing for me, I think, to take away is like, it is a diverse day, which is really cool. You know, some days you wish you didn't have as many meetings, but who's not like that? And then the second thing is you're not doing it alone. So you are reliant on others, but in a really great way, I think, because if you get energy from other people and you like working in that way, that's a really great thing. So that's kind of a day in the life of a random Monday. And then the last thing I was going to talk through is, try and just bring it to life a little bit. So the example I was going to talk through is in personal loans. We are developing, and the way you as a user as a customer use Canstar is you just go to canstar.com.au, you pick like personal loans or home loans or insurance, whatever it is that you're after. And then you'll get served kind of a bunch of products. And to date, we haven't done a whole bunch of, you know, what does that mean for me? A lot of personalisation, which obviously in this day and age is super, super important. You don't want to know, you know, what a personal loan looks like, you know, just generically or for someone else. You're probably there searching for you. So, you know, with that insight, which, you know, is not rocket science, you know, our vision, which is part of, you know, the important thing here, is to only show people the loans that they can get and not the ones that they won't get. Pretty important for personal loans. Just in developing this product, the sort of things that we look at is, firstly, like, what's happening out there in the market? Like, who's doing this really well, both internationally and here domestically? How is the actual market performing in terms of personal loans? Is it an area we want to invest in? That's kind of one. Secondly, we'll look at performance. What is the current performance of the business? Is it something that we want to stir the pot? Is it doing really well already, or is it an opportunity to grow? Product roadmap. So this is all around identifying, you know, what features we might want to build now, you know, for your MVP launch, and then in the future, where do we want to take this product? So you've got a product roadmap. And then finally, it's around organizational alignment. So thinking about, you know, does this tie into what we want to achieve as an overarching business and align to that business strategy? So that's kind of the homework we do, kind of discovering the product and kind of have in the top of our minds. And then we'll actually obviously create the experience itself, speaking with customers, building it out with our tech teams internally. So this is it. Basically, you've got a landing page where you go in, you get started. We'll work with a bunch of different brands. You'll go in and we'll ask customers, you know, how much do they want to borrow? How long do you want your loan for? What's it actually for? You know, you can obviously have a personal loan for a whole bunch of reasons. Then we'll say a few more questions. And this is about a balance of like how many, you could keep asking questions all day long, but it's about getting that balance right. So it's not too much hard work for customers, but it's still giving them value. And then at this point, we'll do an API call over to our partner that we work with to filter down these results so that in a table we can serve you, hey, here are some products that you might be eligible for. And then it becomes much more personalised towards what you want. And from there, as a user, you can say, you know, hey, monthly repayment's super important to me. I can see actually at the end of the day how much is going to come out of my pocket. I can click through. I can either apply directly with that lender, or for some of those loans, it might go via a third party. And yeah, so that's kind of an example of what that looks like at the end of the day, bringing it to life, which is a real life example. And obviously at Canstar, we're doing that across a whole number of industries, whether it's, you know, personal loans, travel, you know, we do a whole bunch of stuff with consumer goods as well, kind of, you know, white goods, etc. So that's kind of it. So again, just to wrap up, 3 things to take away today. Number 1 is that product managers come in all shapes and sizes. Number 2, what was number 2? Anyone? What was number 2? Yes, your journey is your journey. Thank you. I actually did need help there. And number 3, every day is a school day. So that's me. I think it's questions. question.
You mentioned earlier that part of your role as project manager is kind of figuring out solutions to problems.
Yes.
What is one of the hardest problems you faced in your career? And if you could go back, if you were confronted with it again, what would you do differently?
Look, I think for me, one of the hardest things is that challenge of what do you take on yourself versus you work together as a team on. I think, in product, often you are the front and the face of things, but more often than not will have a whole team behind you who are developing the product, helping with legal, a whole bunch of stuff. I think for me, the biggest lesson I've learned is don't try and wear the whole weight of that yourself. It's very nice to feel like you are in it together with people. It doesn't mean you can't be accountable for what you're delivering. But I think often if you try and wear the burden of that whole thing yourself, it can be quite stressful. And it's also more fun working in a team, and I think you come up with better solutions. So my big learning would be try and control what you can, work in your team, and then it just makes for kind of a more fun working environment. Sorry, there was one at the back first, I think. Yeah.
How does your company define the target customers and how you guys get and examine the secondary data on the market?
Cool. Can I just replay the question just to make sure I understand? So how do we define our target market and how do we get data?
Target customer.
So how do we define our target customer? That is an awesome question as well. Super important. I think for us, the reality at Canstar is we were a company that was born in the early 90s. And up until recently, we actually haven't collected a huge amount of data on our customers. I mean, more recently, we get customers to join, etc. But I think collecting data for us is actually something relatively new. I mean, a lot of companies who are born in the noughties, etc., are born by collecting data, so you have a lot of rich data on your customer. But basically, we are in the midst of defining our target market for some industries at the moment. But I think at a company level, absolutely, we know generally the type of customers who shop with Canstar. How do we define them? I think generally by just looking at the data sources that we have and understanding who is using our site, what sort of products are they taking out? Are they taking out travel insurance for families and going on, holidays here and there? And what does that mean for other products that we offer? Pretty data rich in terms of how we define them and then subsequently target those customers. Yeah, I will be kicking around afterwards for a little bit if anyone has further questions, but thank you very much.